Hey guys, Missing Pixel here. Welcome back to Delisted. In today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at the first ever Asphalt game, Asphalt Urban GT, not only on the Nintendo DS, but also over on the N-Gage and Java with its 2D and 3D version. Strap in folks, this is a seriously bumpy ride. The Nintendo DS version of Urban GT was released in November 2004, being a launch title for the system, and frankly, considering that this was the first ever game in the series, and on the brand new system, it is quite impressive. When we boot into the main menu, we do get a pretty sweet soundtrack, feels straight out of a 90s arcade style racing game. We have two settings here, arcade and evolution. Arcade is what many racing games would call a quick race or a single player mode. This is where you can play the individual tracks as either a normal race, a time trial or a cop chase, where you must get up close to each opponent for 3 seconds to shut them down, like a boring and tedious version of London Racer Police Madness. I played this game mode for about a minute and then gave up since all other opponents sped ahead and there was no chance of me ever catching up. In the evolution mode however, that is where our championships lie. They are sorted by car category. At first you get to drive a Celine, gets to show off the power of the game, as the next championship has you drive the world's slowest car, the Hummer, which in all fairness is a smart decision, since driving a slow car has helped me to get used to the handling model and drifting mechanics of this game. The championships are based on the category of the car, the manufacturer, engine size, etc. There are 14 real manufacturers in this game, plus some of the game's own fictional cars. And in terms of the tracks, there are 9 tracks, which are Paris, New York City, Miami, Las Vegas, Cuba, Bogota, Chernobyl, Hong Kong and Texas Motor Speedway. The tracks are all very detailed and are a decent representation of the real world, with many landmarks or themes from each city being implemented in the game, with of course many creative liberties taken. While the tracks themselves look interesting and are fun to play, with tight corners, big jumps and long stretches of road, not to mention oncoming traffic, I have to speak about the handling model here. I really didn't like it, specifically the Nintendo DS version. It feels like the cars are too fast for you to be able to drift and take corners properly. In every other game, you step off the gas as you take a turn, but this game has unfortunate button mappings. To initiate a nitro boost, you must step off the gas. That means you have to take everything at full speed, otherwise you waste nitro in order to take a corner. Speaking of nitro, you earn it by driving dangerously, so being risky does pay off, except when it doesn't, since the cars feel very slow to respond to your inputs. And of course with this being a DS title, you have to use the D-pad, so any precision is out of the window regardless. And this leads me nicely onto the N-Gage version of the game. Released in the same month as the DS title, it is seemingly a one-to-one version of the DS game, but surprisingly, it is my favourite version of this game for a few reasons. Despite the idiotic decision for Nokia to not transform Series 60 to work on horizontal displays, the vertical screen actually works in this game's favour. The camera is more zoomed out than the DS version, which makes it easier to see what's up ahead of you, or at least somewhat, since both games are a blocky mess. The cars also feel faster to drive and therefore the gameplay feels more chaotic. And to get to my point, the controls are far better. Mind you, I am emulating both these games, as opposed to having to play on the N-Gage's number pad. But because we have so many buttons to work with, the game not only maps better to a controller, but also allows us to take the accelerator off without engaging nitro, as that is a separate key. This means that you get finer control over the way you take corners, and you feel more in control of the car. I'm also a fan of the graphics in both games. The DS graphics are truly impressive for a launch title. It also uses some of those classic tricks, like pre-bake lighting and walls masquerading as trees, but it helps to make the game feel more like a retro title. And you know what feels even more like a PS1 title? The N-Gage version. With its worst render distance, its use of dithering and texture warping, this absolutely feels like a PS1 title. And I adore the aforementioned lighting, which alongside some of the tracks does remind me of Europe Racer over on PC. It's a very vibrant game that uses colours nicely, with the bright orange of the low pressure sodium lights mixing in with the vibrant blue LEDs of the bridges and all sorts of brightly coloured neon lights over in Miami for example, or the New York map that has the golden hour sun partially peeking through the shadows that the tall buildings create. It's a rather stunning game. While we do get a lot of location variety, the tracks do quickly start repeating after about 15 minutes of gameplay, which does drag the game down. With those two versions of the game out of the way, there is one last 3D version. You've seen what a 100MHz CPU with unaccelerated graphics can do over on the N-Gage, but what about Sony Ericsson phones that supported the Mascot 3D engine? Christ, I don't even know where to begin. Let's start with the easiest thing to point out, the frame rate. The DS version is mostly 60fps, though it will drop below that. The N-Gage one feels like it's in the 20s. The Java version, 12fps. I know it's 12fps because it had to set it to 12fps, as the game speed is tied to the frame rate. Like the developers thought that this was the pinnacle of 3D Java gaming and phones will never get any faster, despite bringing the game out on a faster mobile platform. The second thing that is instantly noticeable is the draw distance. It is practically impossible to see what's ahead of you, and this is made worse with the wacky Z buffer. where things pop in and out of the screen when they are not supposed to. You know how many trucks I end up hitting because they hadn't drawn in until it was too late? At one point I even hit one that never rendered. This could be an emulation fault in all fairness, but I don't have any Capsule 3D capable phones, so I don't know for sure. The controls are also awful, while in all other versions, drifting is managed by hitting the brake and turning left or right, no matter whether you have the accelerator down or not. Here we have dedicated drift keys for turning left and right. Hit them for too long and your car will do a 270-degree turn without you even noticing, and at that point you might as well restart. As was the case with many Java games, acceleration is automatic, so again I have the same problem as on the DS, with not being able to take corners well. Though with how aggressive the drift keys are, it's not as big of a problem here. We do also have zero in-game music too, how nice. The final thing I want to point out is the graphical fidelity. We have the same nice pre-bake lighting, and the tracks are from what I can tell identical to the other versions, but the landmarks have been heavily reduced down in quality, as in, they're all low quality transparent bitmaps. This isn't really a fault of the devs, but I do want to point out that it looks incredibly charming, because they are so small in size, they might as well be pixel art. But yeah, while all other versions of the game that I've mentioned so far are fine, this one should be avoided at all costs, save your sanity. And finally, the 2D Java version of the game. It's an Asphalt Java game alright. There isn't really much for me to say that you don't already know by playing any other Asphalt game. We have some tight tracks to race around. Some tracks are based on the 3D versions of the game, while others seem to be new. 3D effects seem to start and stop at tunnels. We have money, nitro pickups, as well as slowdown pickups and spikes on the road from the police. Yeah, police. That's something we don't have on the 3D version. You have a wanted level, which requires you to use your nitro to get ahead of the cop cars. And you need to pick up an item that lets you lose your wanted level. When your wanted level is too high, a police helicopter will send an ESD and will bust you, which means that you need to catch up to win the race. You also earn money for each race, which is then used to unlock new cars. And there are speed cameras, where the faster you drive, the more money you earn. It's a fun game, as Java Asphalt games seem to be. And it's cool that they got the formula right on the first go, spawning many sequels and countless clones. The levels are super short, with Gameloft knowing that this is a quick 5-minute game to play while waiting for the bus, than a console quality title. In the future, I'd like to check out Urban GT 2 and Street Rules, but for now, that's me done for this video. Thanks for watching.